631 dividing polynomials. We're going to look at this two different ways today. This lesson, we're going to do this with long division, and then the next lesson we'll look at it with synthetic division. There's benefits to each of them. You'll probably like synthetic division better. It'll work for most problems, but long division works for everything, where synthetic division only works for specific types. So I went ahead and filled out the bell ringer ahead of time. So I'll just talk through it real quick, and then we'll move on to some other problems. So when we're simplifying this, just like following your order of operations, we got to multiply first. So multiply the x through. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. And then multiply the 3 through. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 4 is 12. And then I brought the 2 down. From here, all I did was combine like terms. So I brought down the x squared. 4x plus 3x is 7x. 12 plus 2 is 14. Okay, done a lot of those, so that should be pretty easy. So now, getting into polynomial long division, just wanted to go back to something that you have seen, I don't know, back in elementary school somewhere, 4th, 5th grade, somewhere in that area, probably in 4th grade or something like that, where you did this kind of division, right, where you had something like 5 going into 42, you know, something that it didn't go in evenly. So you looked at 5 going into 4. Well, 5 doesn't go into 4. So then you said, well, how many times does 5 go into 40? And you said, all right, well, I know it goes in 8 times. And then you did 8 times 5 to give you 40. All right, and then after you did that, you subtracted that. And then 42 minus 40 gave you 2. And then 5 doesn't go into 2, so then you were pretty much done, and you wrote this a couple different ways. You probably started out by saying 8 with a remainder of 2. Then maybe you said 8 and then maybe like 2 over 5. Or maybe you wrote it as a decimal, like 8.4 or something. You may have written that a couple different ways. This right here is the general idea of what we're going to be doing today with our polynomials. So just going before we have like a binomial going into a trinomial or you know, something like that. I just wanted to look at it with some basic terms here so you can kind of understand the general idea of what's happening here. All we're doing is we're looking at the leading terms, okay? So there's going to be a lot of other stuff happening here, but this is all we're doing is we're just looking at the leading terms. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to say, if we're dividing, you can ask yourselves, you know, what is 2x squared divided by x? But probably one of the easier ways to ask yourself this question is, what do I have to multiply x by? Okay, what do I need to take this number out here, or this variable, or this term? What do I have to multiply this by to get me to this? Okay, well, it's missing a 2, but it's also missing an x, because this has an x and this is an x squared. So, okay, x times 2x will get me to 2x squared. All right, so that's kind of the general idea of what we're going to be doing here in these problems. So I'm going to be running through a couple of these with you, and then I want you to try some of them and see how you do, and check your answers with what I have. So what we do is we're going to divide x squared plus 3x minus 12 by x minus 3. So your binomial x minus 3 goes on the outside. And then whatever you have, whether it's a trinomial, it could also be another binomial. It could be, you know, 4 terms or higher than that, whatever it is. That goes underneath your little dividing bar there, okay? And like I said, all we're doing is looking at the first term. So we're going to ignore the minus 3 that's out here. I'm just looking at the x, and I say, all right, what do I have to take x and multiply by to get to x squared? Okay, x times what gives me x squared, and that's x. Or you could ask yourself the other way, what's x squared divided by x? Either way, you should end up at x. All right, so now once we do this part, right, once we do that and we say x times what gives me x squared, that gives me x, then we do the distributive property. So x times x is x squared. And then x times negative 3 gives us negative 3x. Now, we're going to draw this line underneath here, and what we're going to do, just like in that first problem where I did like the 42 minus 40, we're subtracting this row here. But what we're going to do is we're just going to flip these signs. So we're going to do minus x squared plus 3x. Okay, you got to make sure you distribute that through, multiply both of these by a negative. But really all that's doing is just changing your sign. So negative x squared plus 3x. Your first terms here should always cancel out, okay? So x squared minus x squared is 0. If these terms here do not cancel out, that means you either made a mistake in your dividing to get this number up here or this term up here, or you made a mistake in your distributing. So just keep that in mind. These two need to cancel. X squared minus x squared is 0. That's gone. Sometimes these will cancel, but sometimes they don't. 3x plus 3x is 6x. All right, and then the next thing that we do is we just bring this guy down, so minus 12. And we're just repeating that process until we're done. So first term, take the x. What do I have to multiply x by to get to 6x? Well, a positive 6. Or you ask yourself, 6x divided by x gives me 6. Okay, so however you want to look at it, same thing. Now we distribute. 6 times x is 6x. And then keep going. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. Draw your line here and flip our signs. So negative 6x. Now flip this sign, positive 18. Again, your first terms here should cancel. 6x minus 6x is 0, so they're gone. Then we got a minus 12 plus 18 gives us a positive 6. Okay? Now, once you get to the point where this term down here has a smaller x than what you have out here, you're done. Okay? So we can't take 6x, divide by x, and be left with something up here. So this is the part where we have some kind of remainder. So the way that we want to write our answer is x plus 6, and then we're going to add to that the remainder, which is 6, divided by that stuff on the outside, which in this problem is x minus 3. All right, so that's how we want to write our answer. So it's kind of like in that, let me back up here a step. Kind of like this right here, how we wrote these answers back in, like I said, maybe 4th grade or something, 5th grade maybe. Just like that. It was your remainder was 2 divided by this number, which is your, your number that's out front here. Okay, so remainder over that number. Okay, so next problem here, example number 2. What I want you to do is pause the video, follow what we did there in example 1, follow those steps, and see if you can get the answer. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, see if you can get that, and then come back and check your answer. All right, so hopefully you did that, and so I'm going to show you what I got for my answer, and I'll talk through all of my steps here. All right, so this is what I got. All right, so again, we're putting the x minus 4 on the outside, x squared minus 3x plus 1 on the inside. All right, so this is what we're doing. We're saying x times what gives me x squared, and that's an x. So x times x gives me x squared. Distribute your x through. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Draw your line, flip your signs. So negative x squared, then I changed that to a positive 4x. So I changed up the colors there, so hopefully you can follow with what's happening. Again, these first terms need to cancel. X squared minus x squared is 0. They're gone. Negative 3x plus 4x just gives you x, or 1x. And then I brought this down. I didn't really write that arrow in there, but I did bring down the positive 1. Ask yourself the same question. X times what gives me x? That is a 1. That's a positive 1. Distribute it through. 1 times x is x. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. Draw your line, flip your signs. Minus x, change that to a positive 4. Add. Again, these have to cancel. Otherwise, you made a mistake. You got to fix it. 1 plus 4 is 5. So final answer, this up here, whatever's up top, x plus 1 goes first. And then plus remainder is 5. divided by, stuff out front, x minus 4. So there's your final answer. And again, hopefully you paused the video and actually tried that and you got your correct answer. That's the best way to know whether you're doing these correctly or not. All right, keep going with the notes here. I'm actually going to skip over number 3, and I'm going to save that one for you to do. I mean 3A. So I'm going to jump over to B. We are not doing anything different here other than actually answering this question. We want to know, is this a factor? Okay, so if something is a factor, what that means is we go through this whole process of this dividing, long division stuff, and if it is a factor, that means it does not have a remainder, or it has a remainder of 0, I guess is a better way of saying it. So we do the same thing, it's just we're looking at the remainder and saying, do I have a remainder of 0, which means yes, it is a factor, or do I have a remainder of anything else? Is it a 1, a negative 2, a 1/2, a 15, a negative 7, a 13, 26, whatever it is? If it's something other than 0, then it's not a factor, okay? So the process is not any different. We do everything else exactly the same way. So x times what gives me x cubed? And that's an x squared. Multiply it through. X squared times x gives you x to the third. And x squared times 4 gives you plus 4x squared. Another thing I want to point out is a side note. I did not put an example like this in here, but I do want to mention it. It'll show up on tomorrow's, I believe. But like, let's say, for example, if this problem was just x cubed minus 6x, minus 6x minus 7, if it was missing the x squared term, you would need an x squared term in here. You would just put a 0. Okay, so if it's missing a term, you would put a 0x squared, because otherwise when you do this, if you left that out and this next term here was a 6x, you see how your terms, you would not be adding like terms. And then you might be adding a negative 6x and a 4x squared, and they're not like terms because they don't have the same variable, same exponent. So you just have to keep that in mind. If you do have a problem where there's a term missing when it's written in standard form, like if there's an x squared and just a 5 and you're missing the x term, you have to fill in a 0x so that you're not missing anything underneath your division bar there. All right, draw the line, flip your signs. So this is a negative x cubed and then a minus 4x squared. Again, these have to cancel, so x cubed minus x cubed is 0. 3x squared minus 4x squared is a negative x squared. And then I'm just going to bring down everything that's left up here, okay, just because I don't want to forget anything in the rest of the problem. So negative 6x minus 7. Some people will just bring down the next part, the minus 6x, and then bring down the minus 7 at the next part, but it doesn't hurt to just bring everything down right here and then just, I mean, we're not going to use the 7 in the next part, but it's not a bad idea to have it here. Okay, so next question that we need to ask ourselves here is, what do I have to multiply x by to get negative x squared? Well, first of all, I need to get to a negative, so that's a minus, and then x times x gives me x squared. So distribute it through. Make sure you're distributing the negative with it. Negative x times x is negative x squared. And then negative x times 4 gives you negative 4x. Draw your line. And we flip our signs. So these are both positive, which is good for this first one because they need to cancel. Negative x squared plus x squared is 0, so they're gone. Negative 6x plus 4x is a negative 2x. And then I'm bringing down the negative 7. All right, now, last step. We need to see, what do I have to multiply x by to get to negative 2x? And that's going to be a negative 2. Distribute it through. Negative 2 times x, bring that down here, is a negative 2x. And then the last part, negative 2 times 4 gives you negative 8. Draw your line and flip your signs. So positive 2x, positive 8. These cancel, and our remainder is 1. All right, we just got a remainder of 1. So this means that no, this is not a factor. We ended up with a remainder of something other than 0, so this is not a factor. Okay, so then we just have to, again, answer that question. So we just need to say that no, x plus 4 is not a factor. Oops, got an extra 0 or an extra O in there. Not a factor. Okay, so you just have to, again, answer the question that they're asking you. Don't, come on. Don't, don't just do the math problem and then forget to answer the question, because you're going to end up losing points. Like if this was a test question or something that you would see, in a future class or something like that. This is something that you would lose a point on if you didn't have the actual answer to the question. So you just have to make sure that you're answering that question. All right, so now I'm going to jump back to part A. Same thing here. Pause the video, try the problem, see what you get for your answer, and then check back and see if you have the correct answer. So go ahead and pause it, try that problem. All right, so hopefully you did that, and now you're back ready to see if you have the correct answer. So you should get a remainder of 0 for this one. All right, so here's the work for it. X times x gives you x squared. Multiply it through. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. Draw your line, flip your signs. Negative, negative, so these cancel. 6x minus 4x is 2x. And again, I brought down my 8. So x times what gives me 2x? That's a 2. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. And then subtract them. Again, draw your line, flip your signs. So negative 2x minus 8, they subtract to give you 0. So since there is a remainder of 0, that means that yes, it is a factor. X plus 4 would be a factor of x squared plus 2x plus, x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay? So again, this is the long division part. Tomorrow or the next day of notes will be the synthetic division part. Synthetic division only works for specific types of problems, but I think you're going to like that one a lot better. It seems a little bit easier. So try the homework problems that go with this. I'll send the answers out later, and just let me know if you have any questions on this, and just send me an email and let me know.